When I pulled into my driveway after 6 long months, I almost slammed on the brakes. There, standing proudly where my open yard used to be, were 3 brand-new log cabins, each with shiny tin roofs, porch swings, and welcome mats. But the problem? They were on my land. For a few seconds, I thought maybe I had taken the wrong turn, that exhaustion from the road trip had fried my brain. I checked the mailbox, the same old dented thing, still bearing the name David R. Collier. My house, a single-story home I'd built with my father before he passed, was still there, its red shutters faded by the sun. But beyond it, where my half-acre of open space used to stretch toward the woods, there were now structures, actual cabins, and cars, 3 of them, each with out-of-state plates. My chest went tight. My hands gripped the steering wheel hard enough to make my knuckles pale. Who in the hell had built on my lot? I hadn't been gone that long. 6 months. That was it. A job project overseas, nothing permanent. I'd left my property locked and my bills on autopay. Before leaving, I'd even asked the local homeowners association, the Maple Ridge HOA, to keep an eye on things. Don't worry, Dave. The president, a man named Howard Fields, had said, "We'll keep your property neat and secure. Enjoy your trip." Back then, Howard had seemed like a decent man, a bit pompous, sure, but not malicious. He wore that perpetual smug grin that HOA presidents tend to wear, the one that says, "I'm in charge of your happiness in your hedges." But standing there now, watching smoke rise from the chimneys of cabins that shouldn't exist, I realized something dark had happened while I was gone. I parked and got out, my boots crunching on gravel. The air smelled of pine and fresh wood, that clean scent that comes from newly cut lumber. One of the cabins had a rocking chair on the porch. A woman sat in it, sipping coffee from a mug. She looked up, startled, as I walked closer. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her tone wasn't rude, but it wasn't friendly either. "Yes," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "This is my property." Her brow furrowed. "Your property?" "No. Sir, this lot belongs to Maple Ridge Development. We just bought this cabin 3 weeks ago." Her words hit me like a slap. Maple Ridge Development. I repeated, "You mean the HOA?" She nodded. They said they were expanding the community. Said this land was open and pre-approved for new construction. I stared at her, stunned. "Did they show you the deed?" She hesitated. "Well, no. We just signed the paperwork through them." I turned and looked toward the other cabins. At the far end, a man in a flannel shirt was unloading groceries. Another was hammering a signpost into the ground. Cabin 3, Maple Ridge Retreats. Retreats. The HOA hadn't just built on my land. They had turned it into a rental business. I could feel the blood rushing to my ears. "Excuse me," I said tightly, walking past her toward the second cabin. "I need to see something." Behind my house, the old oak tree still stood, its roots running deep into the property line marker my father had placed 30 years ago, a weathered stone engraved with our family initials, DRC. The cabins were at least 50 feet beyond that stone, squarely on my lot. No room for debate, no gray area. They had trespassed, built, sold, and profited on my land. But the bigger question clawed at my brain. How had they gotten away with it? I stormed inside my house. The key still worked. Thank God. Everything looked untouched, dusty but intact. The stack of mail on the counter, though, told another story. I tore through it. Bills, flyers, and several letters from the HOA. One of them caught my eye. Notice of Property Reassessment and Community Expansion, Maple Ridge HOA. Dated 4 months ago. I ripped it open. Dear Mr. Collier, due to recent community restructuring and by unanimous board approval, certain open parcels are being reclassified as common development areas to benefit all residents of Maple Ridge. Failure to respond within 30 days will be taken as acceptance of these changes. Sincerely, Howard Fields, HOA President. I read it twice, my vision blurring with rage. So they had mailed me one letter, full of bureaucratic nonsense, while I was halfway across the world. And because I didn't reply, they had assumed my silence was consent. Sneaky, calculated, illegal. I grabbed my phone and dialed Howard's number. Maple Ridge Association. This is Howard, came his chipper voice. Howard, it's David Collier. There was a pause. David. Hey there. Buddy. You're back. Huh. What the hell did you do to my land? He chuckled nervously. Now hold on. Dave, don't jump to conclusions. We had to make some adjustments. The board approved expansion. The cabins are part of our new short-term rental program. It benefits a community. Benefits who? I snapped. You built 3 cabins on my property. Without permission. Without a sale. Without so much as a damn phone call. He sighed. Look, Dave, the bylaws clearly state that undeveloped land may be reproposed if deemed abandoned or non-contributing. Abandoned? You were gone 6 months. No maintenance, no updates, no contact. I told you I was overseas for work. He clicked his tongue. We followed procedure, Dave. It's all documented. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my porch with a cup of stale coffee, staring at the cabins glowing softly in the moonlight. Laughter came from one of them, the sound of a family enjoying their evening. It wasn't their fault, I knew that. But the injustice burned inside me like acid. My father had taught me every corner of this land. We'd cleared the trees together, dug the well, built the shed by hand. It was our legacy. And now it had been sold off by a bunch of self-righteous pencil pushers who thought a property line was just a suggestion. But I wasn't going to let them win. I started digging, literally and figuratively. The next morning, I went to the county records office. The clerk, a woman named Nancy, helped me pull up every deed, plat, and permit associated with my address. Here we go, she said, clicking through her screen. Lot 14B, registered to David R. Collier. Active, taxes current, no transfer filings. So no sale, I confirmed. She shook her head. None at all. But that's strange. What is? She frowned. There's a duplicate entry here, labeled Community Parcel 14B Extension. Filed under Maple Ridge HOA. Same coordinates. Can I see it? She printed it out. The document was a scanned image, fake, messy, and obviously altered. My signature had been forged, clumsily traced from some old form. Rage boiled up again. Can I get a certified copy of my original deed? I asked. Of course. I walked out of that office with the paper clutched in my hand like a weapon. Now I had proof. That evening, I returned home to find Howard waiting in my driveway, his SUV parked like he owned the place. Dave, he started, smiling tightly, we need to talk about your behavior this morning. You can't just storm into the record office like that. It makes the board look bad. I held up the papers. You forged my signature. His face flickered. What? Don't play dumb. I've got both deeds right here, mine and your little counterfeit. He straightened his jacket. You don't want to make this messy, Dave. Legal disputes cost money. You'd be better off letting the association handle it quietly. We could offer you compensation. How much did you sell them for, Howard? I cut in. 10 grand a cabin? 20. He didn't answer. That was enough. You have 72 hours, I said coldly. Either you tear them down, or I start making calls. He laughed. To who? The county? I am the county board liaison. You won't get anywhere. I smiled then, a slow, dangerous smile. Not the county, I said. The state. And the buyers. Let's see how they feel about living on stolen land. For the first time, his confidence faltered. That night, I sat back down at my old oak desk, opened my laptop, and began typing. I didn't know exactly how deep the corruption went, but I was going to find out. And when I did, Howard Fields and the entire Maple Ridge HOA would regret ever touching what was mine. After all, you can build cabins on a man's land, but what happens when that man comes home? For the next 3 days, I barely slept. My mind was locked on one thing, exposure. I knew I couldn't just storm over there with a sledgehammer and reclaim my land the old-fashioned way. As satisfying as that image was, it had landed me in jail before Howard ever faced justice. No, this required something bigger, colder. The kind of revenge that comes dressed in legal documents and televised hearings. But to pull that off, I needed proof and allies. The first call I made was to Mara Jensen, an investigative reporter I knew from college. We hadn't talked in years, but her name still popped up on local headlines. Corruption scandals, zoning fraud, political cover-ups. She lived for stories like this. "Mara, it's David Collier," I said when she picked up. There was a pause. "Well, I'll be damned. Haven't heard that name in forever. What's up? You want a story?" She laughed. "That's a dangerous way to start a call." "Good," I said, "because this one's dangerous." When she arrived 2 hours later, she took one look at the cabins and whistled. "3? On your land?" "All 3, I said, handing her the forged deed and the letter from the HOA. They sold them as vacation rentals under a fake development expansion. She read the documents carefully, her eyes narrowing. "Howard Fields. He's been in the local zoning committee for years, hasn't he?" "Yep. County board liaison. Means he can adjust parcels without oversight if the board signs off. And I'm guessing his buddies did." Mara grinned. "Perfect. You mind if I record this?" I leaned back, letting her camera lens capture the scene, the cabins, the paperwork, my original deed. Every word I said was deliberate, factual, and full of quiet anger. When she was done, she looked at me. "This could get messy. David." "I'm counting on it." 2 days later, the story hit the evening news. Homeowner returns to find HOA-built cabins on his land. Local officials under investigation. Howard's smug face appeared on screen as he refused to answer questions from reporters. The footage showed him closing his office door as a dozen microphones crowded his car. The next morning, the Maple Ridge community was in chaos. My phone buzzed nonstop, neighbors calling, texting, apologizing. One of them, Mrs. Hayward, the sweet widow from 2 houses down, came to see me in tears. "David, I'm so sorry," she said. "Howard told us you sold that lot. Said you'd move permanently." "He lied," I said simply. She nodded miserably. "He told everyone you were behind on taxes. Said the HOA reclaimed it. I should have known better." I sighed, putting a hand on her shoulder. "It's not your fault. They wanted people to believe it." But as the media attention grew, Howard's arrogance only doubled. At a hastily called HOA meeting, he stood before the community center podium and delivered a speech dripping with false righteousness. "These attacks on our association," he said, voice booming, "our attempt to discredit the hard work we've done for Maple Ridge. Mr. Collier's claims are unfounded. The cabins were legally approved and beneficial to everyone here." Someone shouted, "You forged his deed." Howard ignored it. Another yelled, "You lied to us, Howard." His composure cracked slightly. Everything was done within procedural authority. The board voted unanimously. That's when Mara, standing in the back, raised her hand. "Would you like to comment on the county's audit report? The one confirming that Lot 14B was never transferred and the documents you submitted were falsified." The room erupted. Howard's face went pale. He tried to respond, but the crowd drowned him out, neighbors shouting, reporters filming, homeowners demanding his resignation. It was beautiful. That night, I sat on my porch again, watching the lights go out one by one in those stolen cabins. No renters, no tourists, just silence. But it wasn't over yet. The county investigation had only begun. Howard and his board had manipulated more than just my property. They'd overbilled homeowners for maintenance fees, falsified landscaping invoices, and pocketed money from community funds. Within a week, subpoenas started rolling out. 2 board members resigned. 1 skipped town. And Howard, he finally cracked. He came to my door just past midnight, eyes bloodshot and shirt wrinkled. "David, please," he said, hands trembling. "Can we talk?" I crossed my arms. "You've got nerve showing up here." I didn't know it would go this far. The cabins, the documents. I was trying to save the association. We were in debt, okay? The community funds were gone. I thought if I could generate some income. "So you stole my land." I interrupted coldly. He looked away. I made a mistake. No, I said, you made a choice. He swallowed hard. What do you want? Money? I can make it right. I stepped closer. I don't want your money. Howard, I want the HOA gone. Every trace of it. You disband it, formally, and I'll let the DA know you cooperated. He blinked. You'd do that. I smiled. I said I might. Depends on how fast you move. By morning, a letter was circulating through the neighborhood. Effective immediately, the Maple Ridge Homeowners Association is dissolved. All funds will be remitted for audit and restitution. Former President Howard Fields resigns from all positions effective today. When Mara called me later, she was laughing. You just took down an HOA, David. People online are calling you a local legend. Good, I said, but we're not done yet. See, revenge isn't just about payback, it's about reclaiming control. So I filed a civil suit against Howard personally for trespass, property damage, and fraudulent misrepresentation. The county attorney helped draft it, and when Howard's lawyer called me to negotiate, I gave them two options: pay for full removal of the cabins and restoration of my land. Sign over all 3 cabins, titles, contents, everything. To me, they chose option 2. Apparently, dismantling them would have cost more than handing them over. The irony, those same cabins, built illegally, now belong to the man they tried to cheat. It took weeks for the dust to settle. The county completed their investigation, and Howard was charged with forgery, fraud, and misuse of public office. The neighbors, freed from HOA tyranny, held a block party in celebration. Laughter echoed through the streets where tension once ruled. Someone even made shirts that said, "No more Howard." I didn't attend the party, though. I spent that evening walking behind my house, past the oak tree, to the cabins that now stood silent and empty. For the first time, I stepped inside one. It was simple: pinewood walls, small kitchen, a fireplace. The kind of place my father would have loved. I ran my hand across the wooden beam and smiled. If they wanted to build on my land so badly, maybe I'd let them, but on my terms. 3 months later, the Maple Ridge Retreats reopened. Same cabins, same location, but under new ownership. Mine. I turned them into veteran-run rentals, giving discounted stays to firefighters, teachers, and military families. I even hired local kids for maintenance jobs. Every cent went back into the community Howard had tried to exploit. And the best part? The sign out front now read, "Collier Cabins, family-owned since 2025. One evening, Mara stopped by again, camera in hand. "You did it," she said softly. "They are calling this one of the biggest HOA scandals in the state." I chuckled. Guess I finally made the news for something good. She smiled. "Do you ever regret not taking the money instead?" I looked out at the cabins glowing under the sunset. "Not for a second." She paused. "So what's next, David?" I turned back toward my house, feeling the cool evening breeze rustle through the trees. "What's next?" I repeated, a slow grin forming. "Whatever I want. It's my land again." A few weeks later, I received one final letter, this time from the county office. It was a certified notice stating that my property, now officially resurveyed and recorded, had been marked as non-association bound. No HOA could ever claim jurisdiction over it again. I framed that letter and hung it beside my father's old tool rack, a quiet tribute to everything we'd built and everything I'd reclaimed. Sometimes revenge isn't fire and fury. Sometimes it's calm, patient, relentless, the kind that doesn't just destroy your enemy, but outlast them. Howard's gone. The HOA's gone. And me? I'm still here. On my land. Exactly where I belong.